I've recently become fascinated with different types of lace and lace insertion techniques on garments. I wasn't expecting to film this project when I initially got started. It's a new technique for me and I wasn't totally sure if it would be successful, but as I got started I realized it was working fairly well, and I thought perhaps sharing my process of learning something new might be helpful to others. Lace insertion is basically sewing strips of lace into a finished garment or length of fabric as a decorative element, or more practically, to add length to the fabric. I had a rectangle of some lightweight cotton I found in my fabric stash that wasn't quite big enough for a full garment, so I decided it was the perfect way to practice this technique that had been fascinating me for a while. I'm just creating a simple sleeveless top over here, but I have inserted the lace in some kind of strategic places because I'm going to show you how it lines up with the pattern that I have selected. But this is the length of it right now. I took this existing pattern and I really liked version A. I know it's a corset technically, and the point is for this to be a billowy, not tight-fitting, not against the body in any way. But I really like this neckline. I like that this is also, it opens in the front, which mine is going to do with the buttons. It's a little short, so I've extended it, but I'll show you what I did to get the pattern pieces. So they're sewn on a curve, okay? So they're sewn, this whole line here would be attached, and in sewing on that curve you're creating like a curved shape in the end, and that's what forms around the body and what makes it tight fitting. And what I've done, because I still really just want the neckline and the arm side, I've created two pieces, a front and a back only, kind of like a standard bodice that wouldn't have side seams, or wouldn't have a side piece, I mean. And what I've done is I've connected it here at the arm side, and I've just left this gap open so that I can still have the billowiness. So what that looked like in my mock-up is this. So like a standard bodice, to clarify, I'll have a front and a back rather than a front, a side piece, and a back piece. I also wanted to show that I put a piece of twill tape to fortify the edges where the buttons are going to go. So if this is the center back, that fits fairly well on that end. And then I think it didn't turn out quite exactly where I wanted things to land on this end. I'm not really sure why, because I thought I marked it well, but I have a few options. I can either, so look, I think what I don't love is that this long piece of lace is like hitting half of my shoulder. It should either be like this and hit all of it, or none of it and be all the way over here. And I think I have some options. Either I can do this and it'll have less on the front bodice piece. I can move it in and give more to the front bodice piece, which is kind of where I am leaning currently, and then maybe my back piece will just not be so will not be so voluminous. Or a third option, which is just to simply add more lace and hope that it extends the fabric enough to put the strips of lace where I want them to fall on the bodice shape. So here I am cutting out the cotton to create a channel for the lace to be sewn in on either side. You can do this. You can also just put the lace directly on the cotton, sew it in place, and cut the excess from behind the lace, but because my fabric is too short, and that's the whole reason why I'm doing this, I'm actually just not gonna cut any of the cotton away. I don't wanna lose any of my length. Now that the cotton has been separated, I'm just deciding how much of the eyelet lace I actually need, because I don't want to use more than I actually need. And after the lace has been cut to the right length, I am just pinning it on either side, where I will stitch with my machine as closely as I can get to the edge of the lace. On the back side, there will be about a 1/4 inch seam allowance of the cotton, and I'll just flip that back and sew it down again, and whatever sticks out is just going to be left raw, and that's okay. I'm modifying the shoulder because I didn't want to have that small piece of the lace randomly inside of the shoulder seam. So I'm just copying that modification to the muslin mock-up so that I can replicate it on the other side. You'll see later that I end up harvesting out that long piece that didn't get used, so none of it is wasted. Now that the pieces are all cut out, it's time to pin right sides together and make the top. Trying the garment on for the first time since the mock-up, and somehow it's fitting a lot tighter to the body than I would prefer. As tops go, this could work, but I really wanted this to be a more billowy fit, so I'm just gonna have to see what I can do about extending the width of it again. So remember that half of the wide lace that I didn't use for the shoulder strap? I harvested out and I'm putting it on the side here. I'm kind of piecing it together so that it can be one long strip at the sides. I had always planned on making a waistband to this top, so I would use like this lace with some wider holes for a 1/4 inch ribbon to be drawn through and then tie in the front like a drawstring. Ultimately, I took this out. I didn't like the way it looked in the end, and I just decided that I would let my clothes create a waistline naturally and not sew one into the garment. But if you're interested, I just pinned it in place, and I used this cross stitch to baste it in place before sewing it with my machine. Finally, it's time to finish the arm and the neckline. Since binding would create bulk and I didn't have extra fabric for facing, I'm just doing a double hem around the arm and
basting it in place before sewing it down. For the neckline, I'm sewing a piece of trim that matched my lace and just leaving the cotton raw on the other side, since that's basically what's happening with all the lace insertion seams anyway. It doesn't bother me. I found 5 mother of pearl shell buttons in my stash that I harvested off a shirt I don't wear anymore, and I'm going to use those. In the end, I think this was a great piece to make. I got to practice a new technique that I've been wanting to try, and I have a top now that I can wear with plenty of things in my closet already. It wasn't perfect, as I said, I was just learning as I went, but hopefully you found the video sort of helpful and you like how the garment turned out as much as I do. I definitely plan to make more lace insertion pieces in the future.